maybe you can slide. Maybe you can sit.
No, I mean the light of the room, if you want to
Ah.
off or not. Do you prefer me to change light?
Yeah. If you, but I'm not sure how it. Maybe slide.
Or maybe,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how
It would
to.
be perfect. But, sorry, but can we do it by here? One. Okay. So it's time to start. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah? Okay. That's perfect. My name is Elijah Borodin, and this is MATLAB course. I'm a lecturer and course lead for this year, and our aim actually will be learn not only MATLAB itself as a program, as a software, but our aim actually to make you more experienced in programming. So improve your programming skills and of course make you familiar with MATLAB programming and their all related things. So quick quiz. Can you up your hands who have some programming experience? I mean C, MATLAB, Mathematica or something like that? No? Yeah, please, something like that. I just want to estimate, so it's about third of this room. Yeah? Okay, anybody here who suppose himself as an experienced programmer or something? Does anybody? Nobody? Wow. Okay. Then let's start. Yes, in the first presentation, in this lecture, I will show you actually two parts of my talk will be divided into two parts. In the first part, I will discuss mostly general things related with the course, with programming, with the assessment of this course, and some mandatory requirements like a coursework and test. On the second part of this lecture, I will discuss our first topic, which is variables and some very simple MATLAB features which you will need to practice tomorrow and on Thursday. I mean, IRA students, I guess, tomorrow, right? And MEC students on Thursday. Am I right? Oh, but by the way, why I remember it, I had a couple of letters that some of you have overlap of our tutorials with some mathematical tutorials. Is it right? Yes? Could you please again maybe raise your hand who have this problem in their timetable? Oh, okay. So it's all MEC students, right? Or no? Most of you? Because not all of you have this math tutorial, right? Am I right? Okay, so please write me, but even best decision if you also write to some people who are responsible for timetable, okay? Because I try to understand this issue, but okay, you also try to write them. Okay, so let's start. Oh, I see it here. Why programming? Well, first of all, because engineers usually use mathematical models to describe reality, to predict some processes, to study some component and their behavior. And so you really will need to have a strong programming experience. Now it is one of mandatory and probably one of the most important skills which employers usually want to see with you when you come to your work as engineers, actually, or scientists, or anything. Actually, yes. Actually, the second point, it's before the computer era, people usually make all calculations by hand, or almost by hand, and it was quite tough. So programmers make our life easy and makes our tools more powerful. Yeah, there are a lot of programming tools for engineers, for simulation, different process, and such software will be even invaluable through the degree program and beyond. Yeah, it means that if consider MATLAB as a big and powerful calculator, you really need to use it during all your graduation process, and it just makes your life easier and happier. What is programming? Programming is actually a set of instruction. It's the first important point, that every program contains some set of instruction which computer needs to make to achieve some results. And the second crucially important point, that to write down this set of instruction for computer, you actually need to know and to assign some specific language which will be understandable for both for you and for computer. Actually, MATLAB is one of these languages. There are various programming languages like, BASIC, Pascal, C, C++, Fortran, Python, and many others, actually. It's kind of low-level languages, which is very flexible, but require a lot of skills to know them. And they also require you to write a lot of code for each, even very simple program or procedure which you want to make. And there are also some more advanced in a way and more high-level languages like MATLAB or Wolfram, for example, languages. These languages, you should understand that these languages actually based on the previous one. For example, MATLAB was written as a library, as a set of program written on using C and Fortran languages. So high level, I mean that these languages actually interpret some already written code based on the low level languages, and you shall be learning MATLAB. Okay, what is MATLAB? So there are two ways to see what is MATLAB. One way to see is that it is a library. Library actually is just a very big set of different functions which someone else wrote instead of you, and now you can just write some some special words like integral, for example, and this library automatically for you calculates the value of this integral. So, and in MATLAB kernel now there are more than 1,000 such function which already set it, already describe it, and all that you know. All that you need to do is just to write the correct names of this function. But another way of looking at MATLAB is just a program like calculator. It's just a place where you can write some mathematical equation and obtain the result of this equation. Or you can write this equation and plot the graphs for some function, to see some variables like a matrix and so on. So you can use it both actually. You can use it for relatively complex programming as a set of library, or you can use it very simple at home to say, like just a powerful calculator for your current problems. What MATLAB do? Well, as I said, actually, first of all, it's calculation, basic, scientific, advanced. There are a lot of tools for data scientists now. It can storage and write and work with data and big array of data. You can write programs actually with loops. You can define a new function, and we will learn how to do it further in our course. Well, you can also connect your MATLAB program with C or Fortran programs. You can plot and visualize your data. And you have what is important for engineers. You can have some toolboxes already done, which like sound, image processing, airflow calculation, symbolic math. So it's big modules already made to use them in conjunction with Simulink, for example. And this is a very powerful tool for engineers to make some structure, for example, and investigate some process. And you can investigate something. Well, it's just a quick example which seems to me illustrate the main idea. I just copy-paste some code which I called low-level code. It's called C code, which makes an array. First of all, it defines of variable types. It set some pointer on this variable. You define the size, then you allocate the specific number of memories for this variable, and then finally you assign some values to each of the slot of this arrays, and you print it. Absolutely the same results you will obtain if you write in MATLAB or any other high-level code this thing, like variable name equal 1 to 2.5. You will have an array from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's clearly shows the difference actually. But the problem also is here, that this code is easily readable. It's you have to spend just a small amount of time to write it and so on. But this code gives you makes you much more flexible in your programming actually. So what I want to say that if you want to make some relatively easy calculation, for example, just to solve some single specific task. MATLAB or maybe some other high-level programs, it's your choice. If you need to write some big complex of program which need to interact with each other, which need many times write down, read, manipulate with a really large amount of data, probably the languages like Python or C would be preferable for you, just because it gives you much more flexibility, much more well, actually much more speed, finally, because MATLAB kernel, where all the functions are written, it's quite slow relatively with these languages for some problems. Okay, is it clear? So the main idea, if you want to make to investigate something really big, like a very complex system, you need to investigate some kinetics, a lot of equations, a big system of equations, really large data. Probably you need to use programming languages like Python. If you need to solve, for example, single but maybe hard problem, MATLAB is the best choice for you. Okay, so then why MATLAB? I mean, yeah, and I also want to say that a couple of similar programs like MATLAB, first of all, it's Wolfram Mathematica, and also mechanics, people from mechanics especially use Muscat for their calculation. All of them are different, but the principles are the same. Especially it is true about the Wolfram and I mean about Mathematica and MATLAB. But Mathematica more suitable for people from math, from Mathematica, because of its construction, because ideology, and it works, it seems on everything like they suppose that everything is a function and is a set of and some set of variables, and it's absolutely different ideology there. But MATLAB is much more keen to engineer problems. So it was initially developed mostly for engineers, and now it's also developed towards this direction. So it's in that sense it's the best choice for you. So easy to program, easy to debug, huge library and capability, and code can be programmed in more efficient manner. It means you have less chances to make some errors in your code, and found them only after creation of some, I don't know, buildings. I mean, it's really easy to find the bugs and some issues in your code. What will you use in MATLAB for? Well, first of all, yes, you shall use it throughout your degree course in many of your modules. So, like a powerful calculator, it's very useful, really. You can solve any equations, algebraic equations, differential equations. You can plot function, visualize data, analyze experimental results, solve some engineering problems, and even dynamic system. Well, yes, and you also make to improve some presentation. Well, this is important slide. It's kind of syllabus, so milestones of our course. First of all, today and tomorrow and day after tomorrow, it's introductory week. I am speaking now about MATLAB, and we'll speak about variables and related things. In 2 weeks, we will have a lecture and computer class which will be devoted to vectors. It's like a one-dimensional arrays. Then we will also discuss programming, the basic programming constructs like for, while, if. It's absolutely fundamental things, not only for MATLAB, but for absolutely any programming languages. And you must know them. And then we will discuss how to define your own function, because sometimes you need to use some very special variables and you need to use very special functions which you need to define by yourself. And finally, we will discuss, by the way, I should tell it at the beginning, but MATLAB, who know what does mean abbreviation MATLAB? What? Yeah, matrix laboratory. Yeah, so the main idea with MATLAB, it starts in 70s of last century, and it was a laboratory or set of functions, set of program which can use matrix, it's two-dimensional arrays, means as a variables, and means it can sum up, multiply these matrices, make transposition, and many other operators defined with this. For example, even arrays of this matrix and so on. So at our final lecture, we will discuss how to work with two-dimensional arrays and manipulate with them. Hopefully, we also touch it in your mathematics course for this semester. Well, and here is actually a structure of our course. One hour lectures. It's on Tuesday the same time every 2 weeks. Also, you will have 2 hours computer sessions. It will be Wednesday for IRA students and Thursday for Mac students. And well, yes, very important part. Yes, you will work during these computer classes. You will work through the tutorial sheets, which probably will not be a sheets, but I mean you can download them online on the Blackboard page of the course. Okay, and there are two sections in these tutorials. First sections in kind of explanations and some additional material, how to work, for example, this week with variables and with operators and manipulate with them, I mean with simple variables like numbers. The second part is it's a few problems for which you need to solve, and one of these problems is so-called assessed problems. It means that you need to solve it by yourself and send it, upload it to Blackboard for assessment. I will speak about it further. And yes, computer sessions will supervised by Dr. Anastasia Vasileva. She's here, and also Dr. Oleg Bushuev. He will help us with this. yes, and the last statement that all of you should go to Blackboard page of the course and see there some useful information like course information about course assessment, information about how to install MATLAB on your PC, and you can download their first tutorials, and the last important points you will be able to download from there your coursework sheets. Okay, coursework is another important point which you will need to complete. Maybe further slide. Yeah, you will need to complete four coursework tests. Going to assessment. I will speak only about assessment of MATLAB parts of the course, okay? Your whole course is tools for engineers. It's include two parts. First part, it's Simulink. You already had lectures on Simulink? No? No? Okay, you will have it soon, I guess. Or maybe next week, I'm not sure. So the first part is the Simulink, and the second part of this course, it's a MATLAB part. And in sense of assessments, it's 50 and 50% of this course. In the MATLAB course, coursework give you 25% of your assessment, and another 25% give you an online test, which should be at Friday, I guess, yeah, 4th of December. Is it clear? So, what you need to do? You need to visit all my lectures. Then you need to visit all the computer classes and solve all the problem which is written in tutorials. You need to solve. You need to solve, most importantly, assessed questions or assessed problem in this tutorial and send it to Dropbox. You need to also to pass the test in Blackboard. Pass the test in Blackboard and make all four coursework. And finally, in December, you need to successfully make a test. Okay? Is it clear? Yeah, please. Oh, pardon. Okay. No, sorry about Dropbox. I mean Blackboard. I'm very sorry about it. Yeah. Okay, please find at the Blackboard page and read carefully the list which calls like assessment explanation. Okay, it gives you more details and stuff. So let me a second. I need to open my second presentation. Okay, and okay. So, and we move to lecture 1. It's about variables. Well, very first slide is about the MATLAB environment. It's one possible configuration, but here it shows some most important parts of this environment. First of all, it folders like a working directory of your project. You will see and try in more details it in the first tutorial. I mean tomorrow and on Thursday, some of you. But you will need to able to specify some directories and read file from these directories and write file. I mean load file to these directories. I mean read from and then load them into your program. The second part is do they have a laser beam? No. Okay. Is it?
That might be useful. But if you try, what is that? Then you make. Yeah.
I see
Oh,
here,
yeah.
but it's okay. Okay. Okay, it's not so necessary. Okay, the second part is editor. It's actually editor because usually when you launch the MATLAB, you start a new session. It's a very important thing from MATLAB. And you can start session, you can quit from this session. But it is only if you use your MATLAB mostly as a calculator. If you want real program in your MATLAB environment, you probably more need your editor, because in this editor window you can write your code. You can define these variables, you can define your functions there, you can define any other things, then you can save it as M files, in your 3 command window you can just load these several, for example, M files to launch your code. This is kind of professional approach to MATLAB programming. And the fourth part, it's a workspace. It's a variable which already downloaded, which you already have in your session. We will speak that you can clear, you can delete this variable, you can assign a new variable, but it's very useful that you can always see which variable you have in your session, in your program. Okay, it's a question because I wanted to ask you which variable types you can imagine. Yeah. Letters, okay. Characters, more character. Yeah, please. Pardon? Integers, yeah. Integers, but numbers, I can say. Yeah, no, I mean you're right. I just mean that you can. And by the way, we'll speak that if in languages like C++, you need to define every type of variable, MATLAB do it automatically, dependent on the equation where you use these variables, or depending on their values which you assign them. Okay, any other? Yeah? Boolean? Boolean? Maybe Boolean. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yes, yeah, it's true. It's kind of logical. I mean, it's kind of variables with 2 types, 0 or 1. Yeah, but it's actually, yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to say that variables actually can have much more types than these several first ideas like characters or numbers. It can be matrices, it can be vectors, it can be some complex construction actually which you define for MATLAB. And for example, in some languages you can define actually any type of structure, and you can assign this structure as a new variables as well. And you can also define how should operator like sum or like I don't know, division, for example. How should they work with these variables? It's so-called overloading of these operators. So variable, it's a quite wide range, but it's absolutely fundamental thing for programming, because all that you have in your program as objects, these are variables. Well, it's a very short slide how looks text variables. You just need to write something and put this, how it calls? Sorry. Yeah, brackets? No. Ah, okay. Yeah, sorry. English. Well, okay. You can have for. Now I will speak about numerical variable. First of all, you can have a very different format. It is important because, well, about engineering, there are a lot of not so funny things and issues dependent, for example, with NASA and with the space technology. When I remember when the satellite go away from, I can remember, from Mars, I guess. So it was kind of catastrophic behavior. They just set them a wrong orbit because they use pi number with precision only up to I don't remember, like 23rd or something like that. Science after 3. Do you understand what I mean? So they use precisions, for example, like here, with just 23 numbers after dot. Okay, and it leads to the case that they lost their satellite, which of course have a cost many millions of dollars and so on. So I just want to say that it's crucially important which precision do you use in your calculation, because every time when you have not integer but okay. When you have actually a long number, it's crucially important the precision which you use, because if you will when you cut your number, you always make some error. I mean, you include some error. For example, when you use number with infinity number of numbers like pi, and in this case, if you use a lot of such numbers, you actually every time increase your final errors of your calculation. So if you will use, for example, short format for very big, very large numbers, like numbers related with space, I mean with lenses, distances in space, you finally will have a very big errors. So so in MATLAB you can write your numerical variables with different precision. And this is really important to at least remember about it. About the types and limits also. Yeah, we discussed briefly the types of variables. For numerical variables, yeah, it can be integers, it can be... forgot. Pardon? Yeah, it can be scalars, but I mean for also with floating numbers as well. And here actually, not here, sorry. Is a range. Some important things. One, okay. Some important things about variable. Yes, that MATLAB automatically defines their types. The second thing is, in general, it's a suggestion to use less than 31 symbols in the name of variable. So, yeah, it's actually a usual suggestion. From one side, not use the name of variables like A, B, C, D, because you can have some problem with this. But write something like, I don't know, stress or str or force or something like that. It helps you. You can use letters, numbers, underscore symbol in their names, but capital and lowercase matters in sense that capital letters for MATLAB is different from the lowercase letters. It's not the same for any programming languages. It can be different. Some languages suppose that for them it's the same letter, but for MATLAB it's different. It means if you define variable like lowercase a, or for example, and then you want to multiply by capital A, MATLAB tells you that he doesn't know such variables as a capital A. Okay? And not allowed to use numbers before the variable name, and also use some special symbols to avoid some ambiguity for at mathematical operations. There are some special variables. For example, pi number. It's here. You can see 2pi with short range of numbers. E number. Real mean is the minimal possible real number in MATLAB. You can see that it's 10 to the power of minus 308. So it's close to zero, absolutely. And real max, it's absolutely huge. It's about 2 times 10 to the power of 308. Your MATLAB also know what is it's infinite, like infinity actually, and not a number. It's also usual word to tell you that you do something wrong. For example, divide 0 by 0 or infinity. Yes, one more operators which I already showed you. It's a two-dot operator to create some array. You just need to put initial value, then put some step, and then put the last value. By definition, the step is 1. For example, you can see 1 to 5. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just a row with 5 numbers. Yeah, it's also important here, you will read it in your tutorials, that by definition, if you not assign some special variables, MATLAB write and then rewrite it in variables ans. So you can even use these variables ans further. Yes, you can. Sorry, I need to drink something. The lower rectangle show you that MATLAB automatically recognizes the variable type. For example, if you define x as an array, cosine x gives you also an array, not a single variable. So it's also very, very easy, very useful, and very convenient for calculation. Clearance, I mean how to clear your, first of all, how can you see if you have now this panel on your desktop? For example, I have installed MATLAB even on my tablet. You can, by the way, you probably also can, it's a good idea to install on your iPad or tablet, and it works good. There are no such thing like a workspace window there, so you can use the commands like who or whos to see all the variables in this section. Also, some command like CLS can clear your screen, but CLC do not actually clear your variable. It's just kind of makeup. It's just a clear on your screen, but remain all the session as it is. But if you write clear, it delete all variables in your session. If you clear and write just the only name of variables, it clears only these variables and not others. And you can also clear the set of different variables. Operators. Well, first of all, you can see here usual operators like plus, minus, times, divide, power. But the interesting thing is that MATLAB can automatically, again, recognize the type of variables and apply these operators to all sort of variables. Not only to numbers or to integers, but also to matrix, to vectors, and many more. Also, if you want to use some special operators, for example, if you want to make like a scalar multiplicity, I mean, you can, for example, if you have two vectors and you want to multiply each component of first vector on each component of the second vector, you can just use these operators with dots, and in this case it makes different action, and you will obtain the other result. Actually, you can see a couple of examples here. You should also try something like that during your tutorial classes. Functions is actually the third most important topics in programming after variables and operators. So you have variables, you have some operators to manipulate and change these variables. And in function it means that you have some input parameters and some output parameters. So you feed function some variables, and then you obtain as your output some other calculated things. It's a very broad concept actually, and very fundamental concept of function, and it's always express some relation between one set and one set variables and another set variables. I even can say that it's kind of mapping from one space to another space. But here you can use, for example, kind of standard mathematical function which quite easy to use, like sine, cosine, and many others. So yes, then there is an internal function. It means function which which MATLAB already know they are inside the so-called MATLAB kernel, and it's more than thousands of such functions. And also you can write some external function, and you can download I don't know, from GitHub, from internet, from any sources, and use it in your program as well. It can be a very strange and special function. Very important thing for programming in MATLAB, it's actually the word help. I strongly suggest you use help for almost any time when you're not sure how to do something. When you're not sure how to use, I don't know, any function like exponent, like something else, when you are not sure about variables, about some commands, about anything actually, and it's not suggestion again only for MATLAB. The same is, for example, for Mathematica, for other languages. All of them contain very large databases. More than this, I'm not sure that it is here. But you are strongly suggested when you write your own M files, when you will write your own functions, you also should write some help descriptions for these files, because maybe I will tell about it. Okay. Anyway, you will explain what is this function, how it works, which variable, which types, because believe me that in a year or even in several months, if you will actively use programming, you will not remember what you have written here. I mean, in this function, if you do not explain it properly in your M file. Okay, and it's absolutely a general suggestion for any programming languages. The same in C, because you really most of